This is Fritz Frivolous with continuous live coverage of the corner of Curious Lane and Just Because Boulevard, the epicenter of the alien invasion. And this just in, King Kong is fighting the Mobile Suit Gundam. And of course, all of this is happening amidst World War IV, making it pure pandemonium. If only Captain Planet were still alive to save us all. Dude, could you imagine? Pokemon. Elemental monsters with powerful magical abilities and a proclivity for battling. Pikachu, Charmander, Squirtle, Bulbasaur. These are just 4 out of the approximately 893 Pokemon that have been created. Originally marketed towards children, this now multi-billion-dollar franchise attracts the interest of kids and adults alike with cartoons, trading cards, video games, and more. However, what if Pokemon were real? Would you spend your life researching all the different kinds of Pokemon? Would you try to catch them all? Let us search for an answer to that question with 2 world-renowned Pokemon professors, Will and Tom. This is Tom.
This is Will.
This question, I think, is something that a lot of us probably can talk about, and that is, what if Pokemon were real?
Oh my god, why'd you do this to me?
I have to do this to you, Will.
I would be a Pokemon trainer. I would be a Pokemon trainer. It's like, well, growing up as a kid, that's what I wanted to be growing up. I wanted to be a Pokemon trainer. Obviously, not possible. But, yeah. I mean, I kind of am. I play with Pokemon games all the time, and I'm constantly training Pokemon, but that's not the same thing.
Now, well, okay, so in the realm, though, like, yes. I'm saying what if Pokemon were real, like, in our universe,
yes.
right?
Okay.
So, but if...
Not the world of Pokemon, just Pokemon.
Just Pokemon, yeah, in our world. Sure. Yeah, not the world of Pokemon. But in the world of Pokemon, if you are a Pokemon trainer, I mean, is that like a career path? Like, you make money with that?
Yeah, so in the world of Pokemon, yes. Like, well, it's because the entire economy of the Pokemon world revolves around the training of Pokemon and doing stuff with Pokemon. And I guess you could call the Pokemon trainers, they're like almost like the athletes of the Pokemon world.
Yeah.
And I think my fiance might have forgot that I'm staying, so give me 1 second while I tell her what's going on.
Who are you seeing? Who are you with right now?
Okay. But yeah, they're essentially the athletes. So in the games, when you beat a trainer, there's like money exchanged. So
I always wondered about that.
They don't really address it, and no one really talks about it. But I would imagine like it's probably when you challenge somebody, it's like you wager a certain amount. So the better you are, the better, the more well funded you are.
Yeah.
Which means you can buy more items, which means you can buy more Pokeballs, which means you can catch more Pokemon. So I guess there's kind of a trajectory of a career in that way, but the big money is by winning the Pokemon League and stuff like that and becoming sponsored and all that other stuff. So again, they're like athletes basically.
And people who are like owning their own gyms and stuff, they're probably making a pretty good living.
Yeah, from my understanding, it seems like the gyms are funded by the government itself. So I have this theory that, because they talk about this in some of the games, like a lot of adults will talk about like a war that had happened before here and there. And my theory is that the different regions of the Pokemon world, their governments promote trainers battling and becoming good battlers for a case of like national defense. Like, they're literally funding 10-year-olds to go out there and start training from, like, a young age.
And because they want to be able to use some of these Pokemon.
Yeah, so if a war goes down, you know they're using Pokemon. No one's going to be like, oh, yeah, no one used Pokemon.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. We're talking about Pokemon that can fucking, like, take down whole cities. Like, some of them get so powerful.
In the new Geneva conference, like, they agreed not to use Pokemon anymore. That's an act. That's a criminal act.
But it's also a deterrent from other nations, invading, because, you're not going to invade Kanto because like some of the Elite Four are there, like, and if you do battle with Kanto, the Elite Four are coming for your ass, like. So that's just my theory.
Yeah.
Because of just I a lot of times I'll think about like, how does this work, like, practically,
Yeah, I always wondered that too.
And there's a game called Pokemon Conquest, which is a great Game Boy. Is it Game Boy? No, DS game, in which it takes place in like feudal Japan. Mm-hmm. And you're literally fighting a war, and it's with Pokemon and stuff like that. So Like,
Oh, see, I didn't. Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. I do love Pokemon. I know you know way more about Pokemon than I do.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
certain things like that did arise in my head. Like when I was watching it, I was
Yeah.
just like, how do these people survive? Because obviously, they go through and there's other people who are not Pokemon trainers and don't catch Pokemon and they have their other professions. But if Pokemon were real
In our
today
world,
in our world,
like what's the question? Like
I would like to go through the whole shebang as it is, like about, first of all, one of the main things that I wanted to bring this up was because I feel like, especially in today's culture, I feel like there would be a huge uprising against people who do that. Like there would be people who are like, Pokemon have rights.
Yes.
You know what I mean? You should not be exploiting Pokemon the way that you are.
And in the in the actual Pokemon games, there is that. But I think what you're getting at is, would we have a similar situation of like animal cruelty laws with Pokemon and like, is battling considered cruelty?
Yeah.
So
it's like, because in a way it's almost like cockfighting or dog fighting a little bit.
In a way, but that's on its surface, that's what it looks like, and the less you know about Pokemon, the more it looks like that. So a couple things about Pokemon and why it would be interesting to see how our world would develop with them is if the same rules apply. Number one, Pokemon are not animals. They do not replace animals in the ecosystem. Animals exist in the Pokemon world. Pokemon are a separate thing. And Pokemon, the idea of Pokemon, they're based off of this Japanese concept called yokai, which are like spirits. This idea that everything in the universe, whether it be inanimate or animate, has like a living spirit.
Yeah, like its own. Yeah.
Yeah, and the Pokemon are supposed to be expressions of this. They're like elemental spirits. And the thing about Pokemon is these elemental spirits have a desire to become more of itself. Does that make sense? Like to become stronger and greater version of itself.
Oh, yeah.
To become more of itself. And this is why they evolve, and they want to evolve. And oftentimes in the lore, Pokemon who do not have trainers are very jealous of Pokemon with trainers because they know with the push of a trainer, Pokemon can become something greater.
Yeah.
And I think
like they want to battle. Like in a way, it's not like, almost like with dogs, dogs want, they usually want that structure because like if you're the alpha male.
Oh yeah, they want structure.
They want, like you training a dog or putting it through one of those, training things isn't a bad thing.
Oh yeah, training them, not fighting them. We're talking
no. Do not fight dogs.
But yes, Pokemon, not all Pokemon, but many Pokemon in the lore, they desire to fight and become stronger and evolve and become like more of itself.
Yeah.
But another thing is like they established in Generation 5 that like Pokemon also spontaneously generate because again, they are an expression of the environment. So like there's a Pokemon called Clink. And it evolves into Clank, and that evolves into Clink Clank. And it's basically a set of gears.
Yeah, that's all. Okay.
Yeah, with
I'm
like
glad
a face
on.
on.
I'm glad you brought this specific
Pokemon in Generation 5, you go to a place, I can't remember the location, but the professor who's studying Pokemon in that game talks about how Clinks and Clink Clanks only started appearing over the last 5 years, basically when like this whole industrial foundation was created. And like
and then now that thing has this spirit.
Exactly. These things showed up out of nowhere. It's because again, they are spirits. They are expressions of their environment, and it's also the reason that like there's not like an endangerment of Pokemon for people going out and catching them. It's like you go out and capture them, but then the environment will spontaneously generate more Pokemon.
Oh, yeah. So it's not like you're depleting like a species.
Right. But that being said, they are still individuals with rights. You know what I mean? And that gets tackled a lot in the cartoon. Like, there's Pokemon that get mistreated all the time. Team Rocket's an obvious, perpetrator. But, half of the shit Ash does is save Pokemon from people mistreating Pokemon.
Yeah, that is true.
But, so back to, like, in the real world, how would our perception be changed by these creatures? Because they're not animals. It's not the same thing quite as cockfighting. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where you're agitating and forcing an animal to fight another animal and everyone's upset and, it's a bloody affair. Also, Pokemon don't kill each other. Like, they faint and then they regenerate their power.
See, you also bring up a good point. Like, I can understand certain Pokemon, in the natural world, right? Mm-hmm. Like you say they live amongst other actual animals and stuff like that. Yeah. And you just brought up the fact right now that like, the Pokemon themselves don't actually kill each other. Mm-hmm. I was always wondering if they were real.
Well, they do sometimes. Like in the wild, like certain Pokemon will eat other Pokemon. just like animals would. But there's also Pokedex entries where it's like they specifically say this Pokemon eats this fish or birds or whatever, but they're not talking about Pokemon, they're talking about animals.
Yeah.
And in the earlier episodes of Pokemon, you actually did see animals in the animation. Later on, they moved away from that.
Yeah.
But technically, by the lore, there are animals and stuff. But go ahead.
Oh yeah, it's weird to me. You know what I mean? Like you can have one, you know, like you have like Spearow and like, you know, what was the other one? Skunktret or skunk.
Sentret?
Sentret, yeah, Sentret, and like all the ones that are like
animal.
They're basically animal-like, right? But then you have like the one Clink or Clink, and you know Clank and all that, and they're non-animals, like they're non. You know what I mean? Like having those maybe interact with a species in an ecosystem. You know, I always wondered how that ecosystem would be affected. You know what I mean? Like,
I mean,
because some of these Pokemon are dangerous.
I mean, some of them are ghosts. They're straight ghosts.
You know what I mean?
Like they're ghosts that like steal the spirits of humans and eat them. Like, not all of them are happy joy monsters. You know what I mean? Like, so there's a lot of dark stuff. Also, like, it's hard to know like what in the lore is like actually true. Like, because there's like a Pokemon named Arceus, who's considered the god Pokemon who created all the universe. Did he really? Or is he just a really powerful Pokemon that people attribute that to in their myths and legends? You know, the same way, you know, old cultures used to worship like, you know, pagan deities and stuff like that.
So like in today's society, there definitely would be some type of a, especially, you know what, especially in our government, there would probably be some bureau that's the head of
without
Pokemon affairs or
Pokemon
whatever.
Affairs, like,
you know,
absolutely.
Because there's going to be dangerous Pokemon, like you said. There's got to be
there'd
protection.
be different departments. Like you'd have like urban ones, you'd have ones that are more about like reserves and wildlife reserves and stuff like that. There'd be all kinds of different divisions. Like, and again, these are weapons in a way. Like they have the power. The
military would definitely
be
using,
and they are in the Pokemon world. They are registered. Like you get a trainer ID. All Pokemon you catch are registered to you and have an ID. Like so, there's a lot of like things from the world of Pokemon that would happen in real life too.
Yeah, I think it would bolster just like, you know, people.
They definitely
like you call it
the
the war machine. You know what I mean? Like it's making money.
Yeah.
Right. If you go to war, our military makes money.
Yeah.
And this Pokemon, you know, if Pokemon were real, like it would definitely be a booming military application to this. It would be tons of money with people.
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely. Now, if Pokemon were in our world, like it would be a totally different ball game, I think, because like we would find the most absolutely efficient way to breed, evolve, and train up the strongest Pokemon. It would be an arms race. And like I can't tell. Like the thing is with legendary Pokemon, there's usually only one supposed to exist, so it's not like you could create an army of Mewtwo's. I guess unless you clone them, but I mean that's how you got.
Which
Mewtwo
I bet you would, in this day and age, I bet you someone would try.
I mean, yeah, I'm sure.
You
but
know,
like,
somewhere in China.
I'm trying to think of like what Pokemon would be the go-to military booster, like something that's common enough or proliferates enough fast enough that you could get a bunch of them strong enough.
Wow, that would...
that like you could use them or evolve them fast and smart enough that you can train them for military affairs. I'm trying to think of. It's hard for me to think of like.
You know
what the ultimate Pokemon for that is.
I can't think of one for that, but you bring up a really interesting point, and it made me think. Well, you know, someone like Blastoise would probably be really good in riot control for law enforcement.
Oh, yeah.
Or someone like that. Or even firefighting.
Yeah.
You know
Which is funny because, like, the Squirtle Squad, I don't know if you've heard of them.
They were, that's true.
They were firefighters, so yeah.
Yeah, there would be a lot of government, local and federal, like
there's Pokemon that have healing powers like Heal Pulse and stuff like that.
I was just thinking about
what about in the medical field? You're gonna have them everywhere because they have magic powers.
Yeah, exactly.
They can do magical bullshit. Like everyone's gonna use them as often as they can. They're gonna become a tool. What's interesting about the world of Pokemon is how advanced the technology is, considering that they have this crutch called Pokemon that they could lean on, but in the world of Pokemon, like technology is way more advanced than it is in our world. Like Pokemon operates like 100 years in the future, technologically wise. Like that's the level of their tech. But
but like also too, I wonder, you know, COVID going around right now, right? You know, having these Pokemon that can heal, or if you hope this hospital maybe have caught, they would probably be asking for donations of like who's the ones that heal, like Chauncey. And
Chansey can heal. Audino can heal. A lot of psychic types can learn recover, but that's like a self heal. I'm not sure all the ones that can learn like heal pulse, since that.
But I would have a feeling that with a pandemic that's going on right now, like with coronavirus, like they would probably be asking, like, hey, if you are a trainer and you have these Pokemon that can heal, we need you to bring them to the hospitals.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like.
Yeah.
It would probably last. It would probably, the coronavirus probably would have been gone.
Maybe it would have. But another thing is like everyone is probably going to have a Pokemon for their kid, like a private little bodyguard, because they're smart enough they're smarter than any dog. Like they're basically as smart as people.
Oh yeah, you're right.
So probably... it's like, why would you not have a Growlithe protecting your kid? Like, like I would want both my kids to have Growlithes. You know what I mean?
That's another interesting fact, though. So, what if someone does that? What if you're not the best? You think you're going to be able to train this Pokemon, and you're not good at it. Just like some people think that they could train this dog, and they're not good enough. And then what do? They send the dogs to the pound. You know what I mean? Or something like that.
Oh, I can see that.
There would be like some Pokemon pound. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Pound.
That'd be interesting. A Pokemon pound. That's interesting.
You know what? And that would be sad to see. Because then what? Would they would probably have to do the same thing. Euthanize them?
No, because Pokemon aren't like dogs where like you can release them into the wild and they will be fine. You know what I mean? Like, again, these aren't like domesticated animals that can't survive. It's like, you know what I mean? You just drop Growlithe off wherever Growlithe fucking generate themselves.
But now, wouldn't a wild Growlithe, if maybe not properly trained, potentially harm another human?
Yeah, you would relocate it to the wild where it's away from people.
Oh, you would hope.
Yeah,
but why would they do? Why wouldn't they not do that with dogs now?
Huh?
You know what I mean? Like with dogs, instead of euthanizing them.
You can't release a dog into the wild. They can't survive out there. They don't have the instincts.
Maybe they wouldn't. Because they would be domestic. Yeah,
exactly.
Right,
but when we catch wild animals and rehabilitate them, we then put them back in the wild. That's
there are no like quote unquote domesticated Pokemon. Like are there?
There isn't, because you have wild Pokemon that you can catch and then ones that are owned or whatever. But at the same time, like, they're people, or they're people. They're smart. It's not that they're really domesticated. It's just that you, like, the whole idea of catching a Pokemon is that you've proven that you are stronger than it, and thus it wants to be with you so that you could train it to be stronger.
Yeah,
like that's the idea. Like, because in the world of Pokemon, technically a Pokemon can completely reject being captured if it wants to. Like, it doesn't have to stay in the Pokeball.
I thought
their will gives in, because it's like, you've beaten me, and thus like you deserve to train me and make me better. That's the idea.
Like, you are my master.
Right,
like,
exactly.
Okay. I always thought that it was the other way. I always thought, if they caught him, maybe they didn't want to be caught, but like, that's it. Like,
it's not clean cut like I just described. Like, there are cases where Ash has caught Pokemon that don't respect him and treat him badly. And every time he tries to use them, they won't listen to him. But they still stay with him. So I think there's like everything's nuanced. Every individual Pokemon feels differently about its situation.
Technically Pikachu doesn't listen to him.
Pikachu definitely
doesn't want to stay in the Pokeball.
And never want to be in the ball. And she doesn't have to. Every time, like, she just won't go in. If you put her in, she'll come out.
Is Pikachu a girl?
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
His Pikachu is a she, even though it has the male design. Because there was a time before they had the gender designs. Yeah. But yeah, Pikachu is a she.
Well, let me ask you this. So, in the world of sports entertainment, would Pokemon battles be? Do you think this would blow away all other sports on NFL,
absolutely.
NBA?
I think personally, absolutely. It's fucking magic blasts and bullshit, and there's all this cool variance between all the different types. Yeah, it's like the Olympics. You can put the nations against each other.
That's what I was. That's one thing that I would probably try to be there on. I don't care where this Olympics is being held. I would try to be there, and that would dominate. It would dominate the world of sports, man.
I would, as a person who is obsessed with stories and storytelling, like the urge to be able to get a Pokemon and go out there, walk in a direction and actually have my own adventure, my own like story in like the classical sense, and try and really cut my teeth and trying to be the best there ever was. Like, there's something about that. Like, I just feel this deep calling in my soul that like I would do that in a heartbeat, and y'all would never see me again.
Okay, so let me ask you, because I know you love baseball.
I do.
Do you think you would love baseball as much as you do now if they're, you know.
I don't know if I would have been able to get into baseball. Like,
because
I don't know if I would have had time for another sport. You know what I mean? But
true.
I do love baseball, and I think no matter what universe it is, if I'm introduced to it at a young age and get into it, yeah, I'm gonna love baseball because it's great. It's a great sport.
Yeah.
It'd be interesting to see how Pokemon affect different sports, though. Like, you know what I mean? Like, would we watch Pokemon play baseball? Like a bunch of Machokes, like ready to
Wow,
fucking
I never
slam,
thought about
I mean?
that. Is a good idea.
I'm sorry, but if Machoke's about to fucking pitch at me, I'm too scared to swing. Like,
dude,
yeah. So,
you know, sumo wrestling, have Snorlax in there.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah,
but then again, if Snorlax is asleep, he probably wouldn't. He wouldn't also push the other sumo wrestler out.
That's
so
true.
like it may be a stalemate. You know what I mean? But
it would be interesting to see Pokemon integrated into the different facets of our.
I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
Like having them in the sports that we have now.
Yeah.
Like that would be cool.
Or like there's a Pokemon called Rotom who's a ghost electric type, but his whole deal is that he can go into any electronic device and basically become an AI for it. It's like we would be trying to figure out how to make as many Rotoms as possible, and everyone's computer would have a Rotom, a literal entity that you could talk to and help you like do data processing way faster. And who knows what else. Like I'm not a computer science major. I don't know how any of that shit works. But like I can only imagine like a true actual AI that can integrate itself from your computer into any other device that you're using at any time. Like that would be invaluable to have. Like,
that would be. Yeah. You know what? That would be definitely something that I would love to have.
Like you know, I think some people look at the world of Pokemon and think it's just kind of funny that like the whole world of Pokemon revolves around the concept that they do exist, but I can't help but think like almost there's no way it wouldn't be the same way here. Like if in the real world Pokemon actually did exist, they would define almost every aspect of how our society functions because they're these spiritual monsters with immense magic power that can bond with humans and make their lives better. It's a way like think about like dogs, like how dogs have like infiltrated so much of like our society, and, like you know our family dynamic.
And that happened through like millions of years too.
Exactly. And like that's not a creature with magical powers or the intelligence of a human being. You know, like it's just a companion and a friend and a protector and a family member. But like this would be that times 100.
And then also too, you know, if you look at it that way, okay, so if Pokemon were real in our universe and you're saying that they evolved with us, that's probably the way. If they just magically boom right now this year,
oh my God,
I think that would be chaos.
Disastrous.
Yeah, it would be there would be massacres going on because people wouldn't know, they would just be afraid, and we all know what happens to the masses when fear is involved. You know what I mean? Like it's just really bad, dude. Really bad.
I mean, could you just see like someone bonds with like an Alakazam? Alakazam's so powerful. You could an Alakazam could like walk into a building and take control of everyone's mind and like make them do whatever he wants. He's like an Alakazam's like Professor Xavier.
Yeah, that would be dangerous.
Yeah,
like
exactly. Yeah, and there would definitely have to be a lot of controls on what you have. And I think in the world of Pokemon, one of the big controls is that it's supposed to be really hard. Like, not anyone can just train a Pokemon and get it strong enough to evolve. And, like, to get something strong enough to evolve into an Alakazam, like, you have to be the best of the best of the best. So it's not like there's a bunch of Alakazams out here.
Yeah, and also we're not thinking about, like, if they did just poof, you know, come into existence into our world, knowing that there's the Pokemon cartoons and everything, and people who are a fan of Pokemon, if that still had existed, there would be people. All those people who are Pokemon fans would become very useful, especially to their wherever they are, wherever they're living. Your government will be looking for you. You will. I know if Pokemon poofed into existence in our world, people in black suits will be coming off of helicopters taking you away, and I probably won't see you for like 10 years, dude, or more. Man.
I'm trying to think. What's the first thing I would do if Pokemon are real? What is the first thing I do?
All I know is once you're taken away by the government, I'd be one of those people on one of those like, you know, I don't know, one of those like crime or like unsolved mystery shows, you know, and they're like, I'd probably have my face blacked out, my voice changed. I'll be like, yeah, my name is Q-Case. I used to be friends with William, and he, you know what I mean? I would definitely be that guy.
Happened, but I mean, I may know a lot, but there's people who are like real, actual experts on this shit way beyond me to a ridiculous degree. I think the first thing I would do was try to get my hands on a Pokemon before I'll get taken away from everybody. And I think if I got to choose like what Pokemon am I looking for to train to have, number one is a Shinx. That's one of my favorites.
I was actually just going to ask you if you could ever have 3 Pokemon. What's your 3?
Oh, that's easy. Shinx, Bulbasaur, Growlithe.
Oh, not even blinking an eye, man.
Yeah, those are the 3 I'd want. I've thought about this.
I know you guys can't see that, but he did not blink, and those words just came out of his mouth.
I mean, those are the 3 I was about to list to you right now. But Bulbasaur is my favorite Pokemon of all time. But Shinx is the Shinx line is a very close second. And I've always loved Growlithe as my favorite fire type. And those 3 Pokemon always seem like they would be the most loyal, awesome friends and pets to have. Mm-hmm. And so those are my 3. What about you? Do you have 3?
Yes, it would definitely be Snorlax, Gengar, and Alakazam.
See, that's what you think, but you just chose 3 incredibly dangerous and difficult things to have. Like that Gengar, realistically, lore-wise, that Gengar might fucking kill you. just to get a laugh.
But you know what? And
your Snorlax is never going to do anything ever. And that Alakazam, if it doesn't have your respect, it's going to come into your house and control
everyone. Yeah.
So,
but you know what? I'm hoping that I would just be a good enough trainer.
You would have to work your way up. I would say start with the Munchlax, the Ghastly, and the Abra, and work your way up. Yeah. But
that's most likely probably what I would do. I would not want to already go and catch the fully evolved ones anyway, because I would just like getting a dog. Don't get me wrong. That's a little different saying about dogs, because I would get an old dog, but but I would kind of rather get a puppy, like the puppy I have now. The reason why was because I want to grow with family,
life experience. So that makes a lot of sense,
But also, you said, what would I do if these, you're like, what was the first thing I do? And you would try to go and catch one. Mm-hmm. I just realized, though, what if they poofed into existence right now? Mm-hmm. We don't have no Pokeball. Where are we going to get that? How are we going to catch it?
So, in Pokemon Conquest, they kind of tackled this a little bit of, I think there was, at some point, they figured out how to catch Pokemon in, these things called apricorns.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Now, I don't know enough about Japanese folklore or culture to know if there's some sort of magical if there's any type of concept of catching something in shells or in fruit skins or anything like that. But it almost feels like it's some sort of old folklore type thing. Because remember, these are spirits. They're not animals. They're not they're not necessarily tied to the physical plane of existence. In fact, in Pokemon, you upload Pokemon to computers and download them.
Oh, you know what I mean?
Okay. So there really are some sort of energy, but I think in Conquest you just kind of gain the respect of one, and in Conquest everyone only has one Pokemon. It's not like you have a team of 6, and that's another thing about Pokemon is it's regulated. No person is allowed to have more than 6 Pokemon on them at any time.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you can only catch 6.
I didn't know that.
Any other Pokemon you capture gets automatically uploaded to your account. Your trainer account, and you could swap them out, but you're not allowed to have more 6. So they are heavily regulated.
Dang! And in this day, in our world, I could already see what would happen. There would be companies that would be controlling these accounts that would, and they would charge you a fee. Yeah, and every time, you know what I mean, it would be like, you want to transfer this Pokemon right now? Yeah. $2 fee.
I can see that in our world.
Yeah.
In the Pokemon world, again, this is me fan theorying because. I think about this shit too much, and I also I forget the reason that things are the way they are is because this is a fucking kids game. That's why they don't charge you at Pokemon centers.
We're 2 adults.
But again, the idea that I have here is that the government wants people trained as much as they can in case of war and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So things like Pokemon healthcare is absolutely free. Pokemon data holding and storage completely free. You don't have to worry about any of that stuff. And I think again, it's all government sanctioned, and what's the word when something is subsidized? Yeah, exactly. So that's my fan theory. But so I would try and capture a Growlithe, a Bulbasaur, and a Shinx, and try and train them and become the best there ever was. That's what I would do.
Dude, could you imagine?
Breaking news, a new study suggests leaving an iTunes review is very important for newly created podcasts. So to nurture your new favorite podcast, make sure to leave an iTunes review. This has been Fritz Frivolous, reminding you to like, comment, and subscribe. Will and Tom, back to you. In 1963, Beatlemania swept the nation and later, the world. The Beatles, consisting of John Lennon, Paul McCartney, George Harrison, and Ringo Starr, were one of the most influential and innovative rock groups of their time, perhaps even still today, with albums and hits that many still hold dear to their hearts. Currently, there are only 2 surviving members of the Beatles, as sadly John Lennon and George Harrison have passed away before their time. But how would the world differ if they were still alive today? Will and Tom, 2 musical gurus, will take you on a magical mystery tour as they imagine if John Lennon and George Harrison were still alive.
I always had the question, because I'm a huge fan, and I know you're a huge fan, of the Beatles.
Yes, oh God, yes.
I think you know the questions I'm going to ask.
What if the Beatles were around today?
Well, what if John Lennon and or George Harrison did not die?
Okay. I don't know. I think.
Go ahead. Let's
Elaborate.
Put it this way. What if they did not die? Do you still think? And when I'm asking you these questions, if you can, please feel free. You can answer for both John or George, and both.
Well, George died pretty late, so I mean, I feel like we could just operate with basically George didn't die early necessarily.
Yeah. But if they were here today, do you think both of them would still be relevant in the world of music today?
I think they would be as relevant as Paul is now. I think that John probably would have came out with a couple more albums with a few more. I think we would have got somewhere between 3 to 6 more John hits.
Oh yeah.
But I think, as with all artists, eventually you do kind of run out of profound art to make sometimes.
Yeah. And
also, I think as our perspectives change as we get older, what becomes important to us or meaningful for us in the art that we make maybe loses its appeal to the wider masses. Because, I don't know, it's a young man's game, making hits.
Yeah.
And at that point, they're not making music to be popular anymore. They're making music because it's what they do.
Because it's what they know. Yeah. And
so,
they do it well. And Paul's still, it's not like Paul's making hits that's topping the charts right now. And don't get me wrong, though. He is still making some hits. There's some of his new songs that are really
I've heard good things.
Yeah,
albums,
that sound really good.
I haven't given them a shot, but
yeah, I mean, but I do feel I still think Paul would still be making the amount of albums and songs that he is now, because he's making a lot of them. He's still in it. He's still in the game.
It's not just what he does.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like, I know, and this is impressive to me, because it doesn't seem like his well of this musical, influence that he has in creativity is drying up.
Yeah, you get some artists that are like that. I like to use Dave Mustaine or Megadeth versus Metallica in this regard. Metallica is without a doubt way more successful, way more popular. Most people, if they've even heard a Megadeth song before, they probably don't even know it's Megadeth. If you just ask the average person on the street. Yeah. Even though I think without a doubt Megadeth is still the second most successful full-on metal band ever. They were always second to Metallica. That being said, at some point, Metallica kind of veered off, and I think they just wanted to get a little bit, they wanted to veer away from what they were, because their tastes were changing or whatever, but I really do feel like James Hetfield and all them, their musical well did dry up. They just stopped having great or good ideas. And Dave Mustaine isn't the best person in the world, even though he's one of my favorite artists, but he definitely has that, it never dries up. It never stops. And every time I think it's over for him, and he comes out with a really bad album, I'm like, okay, fine, he's done. It's over. The next album's one of the best things I've ever heard.
Yeah.
And I think it comes down to, especially when we're talking about metal or the hard rock or the real angsty stuff, when you improve in life to the point where you do find contentment and happiness and peace, a lot of times your ability to make great music in those genres disappears, because pain and suffering are usually
such a good motivator
and inspiration.
Yeah.
And Dave is he's not the most peaceable person. He's always upset. These days it's usually politically driven. Yeah. But he does manage to muster those negative feelings into amazing art.
See,
I think the guys from Metallica, they got fat and old, and I don't mean that in a bad way. Like they
did what
they
they
reaped the
set out
fruits
to
of their
do.
labors. They made 4 of the greatest metal albums ever, and then they made a bunch of not as good stuff moving forward. But and they still tour. They seem like pretty good dudes.
But they're in the position where they don't have to make another one.
They don't.
You know what I mean?
Although they did a few years ago make a really good one because they decided to get back to their roots. But it was really good.
But that's my point. Like they don't have to, but they could do it if they wanted to. They can do it.
Yeah, they have to have that motivation, and they're fat and happy and rich.
I feel like the same thing would go for John Lennon or George Harrison. I feel like John maybe more. Like to be honest,
I feel like John's career. Oh, sorry. I feel like John's ability to make like really, really good music probably would have outlasted the rest of them because John easily was the least happy of the 4. Like he always had a thing to fight for or a thing to bitch about.
And I was just about to bring this up with today's political climate and even with the pandemic going on.
There's no way John's
and the trajectory that him and Yoko were going when they were together when he was still alive. Yeah. There is no way that they would have fallen out of this limelight. Maybe he would make. I'm not saying that he would make like a whole album off this but I know they would stay relevant within the media because I know for a fact that Yoko would either probably do some kind of an art installation or whatever. They would do like protests, you know what I mean, especially against probably President Trump and you know what I mean. And the pandemic, I could already see John, probably trying like in his bed with Yoko, just like when they did the when they were fasting.
Make love, not war.
Yeah, exactly. Make love, not war. They would probably be wearing their masks. He would probably be like, telling people like, don't forget to wear your mask. You know what I mean? Like you got to save everyone.
I also could have seen John like as a statement giving up music forever. Like I could see him like by 1984, like I'm done. Never again.
He's like. Today people don't listen to my music like the way that they should. You know what I mean? Like they would. I could see him do that.
But again,
and then I don't think he would last. I think at some point, probably breaking in the year 2000 somewhere.
Yeah,
he probably would.
Yeah, he probably would have.
Because I think that's when I don't know. I feel like because I do feel like though I know we're talking about John right now, but when you said like somewhere in the 80s or something, John probably would have done that. Mm-hmm. I also feel like though that's also probably where George was going to shine, like was in through the 80s. I think through the 80s and 90s and everything like that, like we would probably get a lot more from George. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean George did live through the 80s though.
Yeah. And no. But like, I mean like, but if John were alive, you know what I mean? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
if both of them John were alive, it would have changed what George did.
Yeah, I kind of feel like that because just based off of like certain documentaries you watch of the Beatles and they all had that like I don't know what you call it, but they all had a little bit of like he wrote this song. I should try to write something better.
Oh,
or whatever.
Pushing each
like
other
a little
to be better.
Competition, but George always felt you know what I mean because like John and Paul. They stifled George. In the Beatles, they only allowed him like I think 2 songs per album, 2 tracks per album. And I feel like I feel like if John were still alive, and then he maybe even if he didn't do what like you think he might have done was just to make a statement to give up music, even if he didn't do that. I feel like George, it would change the way what George did.
I mean, that's distinctly possible. I think we would have gotten a reunion at some point, which would have been nice.
Yes,
and that would have been interesting because, like, as good as all of them were on their own, the fact is, when they were together, there was some sort of magic there. There was something about them pushing each other, because even though John wrote "In My Life," right? We know. Everything was Lennon McCartney, that they wrote, but like we know that's a John song. We know John wrote it, but without a doubt, like even though that's a John song and John wrote it, like it was not like it wasn't touched by everybody else who was in the band. And there's a reason that like all their solo music sounds distinctly not the Beatles. Close, but just not the Beatles. It's because they're missing the other ingredients of each other, and they made each other better. And so it would be. I would not be surprised. Just like we got Black Sabbath reunion albums, we probably would have got at least one Beatles reunion album.
Yeah,
and I think some true gold would have come out.
Oh, there would definitely be gold in there because of the fact that, dude. And then could you imagine getting the like this is the complete Beatles set with the reunion album in it, dude. You're probably talking about it's going to be sold out. It's going to be like $1,000 over. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
But you're right.
Or like Zeppelin did a reunion, like the first reunion concert ever in London a few years back. We would have got that with the Beatles. And they wouldn't have done a tour. It would have been one show, just like Zeppelin did, and it would have been amazing. I love Led Zeppelin. I got a Led Zeppelin tattoo on my arm. Like, they're one of my favorite bands of all time. I didn't even think about trying to go to the Zeppelin show in London. But if it had been the Beatles, I would have cut off my fucking arm together.
Well, you know what? Like, you mentioned your your tattoo. I have the Beatles actually tattooed on my left forearm. But, you know, it wasn't the Beatles, but I got to go to Coachella and,
you saw Paul.
And I saw Paul McCartney.
Was it good?
I never thought I was going to be one of those people who would, like, you know, you see, you know, your favorite, you know, musician, whatever, and you start to get teary-eyed or you cry. And I became that person when I saw him up on stage, and he was, you know, it was like everything culminated into my life of listening to all their music.
It's a stark
and it wasn't the Beatles, but it was a Beatle. It was Paul McCartney that was still there.
One of the only two left alive. Trust me. No, I get it. When my sister met Ringo Starr, I was, number one, I was so proud of her doing what she had to do it because she knew she might get fired, but she did it anyway. I was like, oh yeah, absolutely.
Fuck your job. I
saw, you know, I saw a picture with her and Ringo, and I started getting teary eyed because it was just like, it was too much for me to handle. Like, the Beatles mean more to me than, you know, they are just guys and they were just a man. Those are true sayings, but like, the Beatles,
which is something they would be saying. They would say that. Yeah, but, we were just the band, you know.
Exactly.
You know, all that.
But they mean something more to me and to my family than just that. And it's an intangible. It's hard to define. And not everyone gets it, but those who do, like, we all feel it. The Beatles are bigger than just a band. And they were a phenomenon that will never happen again for multiple reasons.
Yeah, the time that they came out, and like just the things that were going on,
the things that were going on in the world.
Exactly, so many new things they created in the music industry. You know what I mean? That hadn't been done yet, really. Right. You know, and I did like what you had to say about their solo album, their solo works. You know, some of it, it sounds similar, but it's not the same, and it. I think it may be like one of those things.
But it's great. But it's still great.
It's still great. I mean, it's not great, but I mean, I'm not saying that it isn't great, but you know, it's like one of those things where it's 90%, I think, all their musical ability, but like 10% of something intangible that you can't measure it really. But I say like 10%, like, because it's an ingredient that, like, if you're missing that small part, which they had all together, it's not the same, and it never will be.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, but yeah, I would just hope that if that were to ever happen and they didn't die and they did have this reunion tour, you know what I mean? Yeah. God, tickets would be the cheapest tickets would probably be upwards of you know what I mean? And I would.
I said I would try and cut off my right arm to get it. There's no way I'm getting in there. Like, even as big as like Zeppelin or Pink Floyd or any of the big ones, you know, the Michael Jacksons, the superstars of the world, like, all of them pale in comparison to the popularity of the Beatles. Like, those things would be sold out in a heartbeat. Like, it would be beyond.
There would be, you would be there.
A scalp ticket would be so astronomical, only the super rich would be able to afford it.
That would be a news story right there. You know, they would be like, a scalp, Beatles reunion tour ticket just went on sale today for
$50,000.
Yeah, exactly. You know,
and it'd be a nosebleeder. Like, it would be that level.
Yeah, you would basically just be there to watch them on the Jumbotron.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I would hope they would have the, I don't know, foresight or just, like what they did when they played on the rooftop. You know what I mean? They did it. They didn't tell anyone. They did it. It was a free concert. Yeah. I would hope that there would be at least one time they would give you that chance for the people who couldn't go, and they would place. Yeah. Oh my God, I would be flipping out.
Here's a question: if they did do that reunion concert, like, what's the play set? Because you're not going to be able to play every single Beatles song. Like, not even 3 hours could you? Like, you're going to have to leave some out. Like.
Oh my God. You're asking me to, like, trying to pick songs that, like, I'm the one when people say, what's your favorite Beatles song? Like, all of them. Like, that's my answer. Because it's hard.
Their discography is beyond amazing.
But you're right. They probably couldn't. They couldn't play them all.
And then how do they order them? Do they do it would be kind of cool. I would kind of get behind this idea of doing like Beatles through the ages type thing, where you start with like early Beatles, then they're doing the early stuff, and then it goes
kind of like
to
what
like the middle
the
Beatles, and eventually get into the late Beatles. You
like
know what I mean?
the Beatles impersonators do and stuff. They do
Is
that.
how they do it.
Oh yeah, the oh man.
And
what are the
then
names?
I would also, it would be fucking cool if they played one of each of their solo career songs. So like
that would be pretty awesome.
like I don't know, I'm trying to think like Instant Karma, Band on the Run.
The
Beatles actually playing Band on the Run, that would fucking blow my mind.
My mindset on you. I got my mindset. Like
you could do a number of Georgia songs, but When We Was Fab would be kind of cool because like again, it was when they were fab. Like it's a song about them. Like I don't know, just the meta-ness of them doing Band on the Run and When We Was Fab would just blow my fucking mind.
And that's how one of the Beatle impersonator bands. I saw them twice. They're called the name of them. They're called themselves the Fab Four.
Yeah, they're a tribute band. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think they're the ones that they have this Ed Sullivan impersonator that comes on. He's like, tonight we're gonna have a really big show, and he's like doing all this thing. But that's how they do it. They start off with them in the early days, and they play a few sets from that. Yeah, and it progresses.
I think that's how I'd want them to do it, but I don't think that's how they would do it.
I don't think they would do that. No.
Weird way of doing it, I'm sure.
In today's day and age, though, I kind of feel like, and I would be behind this too, I would think that they would have either an app or some website or something that you go on when you're at the concert and they're like, what do you want us to play next? And everyone votes and it gets tallied up through the app.
Cool.
You know
I don't think they would want that.
Oh, you don't think
I don't think they would go for that. Not a bit.
Why not?
Especially not John. Just because.
Oh, also, well, John probably not.
Being a musician too, myself, like, there is just a certain amount of like, your music is yours. And you decide how you express it. No one else gets to dictate like the order in which you do something or how something's supposed to be. Like you become protective of it in a certain way. And like, I would not want to do my music that way. The idea of people voting on a thing to tell me which of my songs they want next. No, thank you.
Well, you may have hit on the answer then.
Yeah.
Because now that you say that, you know what, to be honest with you, because who could pick? Who would be the one that could pick but themselves?
Yeah.
And I think that would be the only way that could happen, because if one person picks or someone else that's not the Beatles, right, or whoever the crowd, not everyone can be happy, because there's going to be some song that somebody wanted to play and they didn't do it. But and that still may happen if the Beatles themselves pick their own playlist. But that's their own. Hey, it's their music. They're going to pick what they want to pick.
Of course.
But yeah, that would be God! Imagine
that reunion concert. One thing I could say about it that I know for a fact would happen and would make me and a lot of people really happy is, even though you can't be there, the entire concert's going to be televised live.
Oh yeah,
without a fucking doubt.
Yeah, televised.
And, yes, I'm watching the whole.
Probably cable. You're probably going to have to pay some money.
That's fine.
You know what I mean? I would pay it. Yeah.
Not only am I watching the entire 3-hour show, but I'm watching the hour pre-show and the hour post-show too.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm taking the day off.
Dude, honestly, if that happened, I would take the day off.
Without a doubt.
Not only that, but you bring up the fact that if it's televised, later on, I'm going to buy the televised DVD that's going to have all the special behind-the-scenes stuff, interviews, with an older John, saying like, we're going to go on stage with our masks, and whatever that he's going to say, I would be watching that. I would be scouring every minute of that DVD.
Yeah.
But I wanted to go back on something.
Okay.
We said we were going in the direction of, if they did a reunion tour, that they would be playing their old songs. Do you think that before they went on tour that they would probably try to come up with new Beatles songs? Like, you know what I mean?
Here's a new one. It's never been heard before by anyone. Yes, I think we're getting at least one of those. And that fuck.
Dude, I have goosebumps right now thinking about what could have been. Man.
Things happen the way they did.
Yeah. I'm one of those people who, like, if I had a time machine, they would be very bad for other people, because you know what I mean? Yeah. I would go back and be like, nah, John's not dying. George, go to the doctor. You know what I mean?
You got to be careful, because what year were you born?
81.
81, yeah. Like what? And he died in 80, right?
He actually, I think it was year before I was born.
Yeah, so that probably wouldn't affect your birth necessarily, but it
might.
It could. Like, yeah, him living could have prevented you from being born. And most people listening to the podcast right now, like most people that we know, just because enough things would be changed with such a colossal figure in history, like it would change where certain people are at certain times. So ripple effect would be unlimited. Like, yeah, so don't do that.
Yeah, I know. I definitely wouldn't want to do that.
But yeah, what if John? Essentially, this question really is, what if John hadn't died? Because George died, what, 2010?
I think.
So for me, it's like, yeah, if George hadn't died, I don't think it would have changed much between now and then. Like in the world of Beatles music, he probably would have come out with a couple other albums, but.
Yeah, and.
But if John hadn't died, we're talking about a man who died in 1980. Like,
oh, no. No, George died in 2001.
Was it
November 29th?
Was it 2001?
Yeah,
Why did I think it was 2010?
Maybe you got the numbers mixed. The two.
Yeah, maybe
they have the same numbers, right?
Yeah,
20102001.
Okay, well, yeah, 2001. I mean, did Paul? Yeah, Paul, George, and Ringo did have a couple reunions with Eric Clapton fill in, didn't they? So we might have got a couple more of those, which is great. And Eric Clapton's great, and you know, if you're gonna have someone fill in, he's a great choice. You know, but
though too with George, his and who knows? I don't know if this prompted George's son to want to help and create the Beatles Rock Band, which I think is one of the greatest video games I've ever played.
Yeah, it's great. It's good.
It is fucking awesome.
Yeah.
Like I am now a Beatle, okay? Because I played this game, I know what it is to be a Beatle. No, but like, his son helped create that. He got that ball rolling. You know what I mean? And what if George didn't die? I wonder if that game would exist.
That's a great question, because I don't think George would have helped.
Yeah, I don't know. I wonder.
Old guys can be old, and like he probably might not have had interest.
Or maybe because they did when all of them were still alive. They were very like, even to this day with a lot of the music that Paul now owns back from like Michael Jackson, all of them, but back in the day they were very like tight with it.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like
protective.
they didn't just let anyone use it for whatever reason.
Not at all.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I kind of wonder if any video game involving the Beatles would they allow that? I wonder if they would have done it.
I think so, because I'm sure Paul still had to sign off on a lot of that stuff.
Yeah, probably.
So I mean, he did, obviously.
I wonder, would George or John have been in on that?
John might have held tough and not done it. Like there's so many times where like I'll see a commercial that'll play like Come Together. I'm like, John would be rolling in his fucking grave right now. Or Revolution for like a Nike commercial. I'm just like, oh man, John would be pissed.
I kind of feel like John, if they approached him, it was like, John, listen, we have this idea for a video game, and he would be like,
no,
video game. He's like, that's
I don't think he would.
That's rotting the brains of.
Yeah, you know what I mean. Elitist about it, without a
he's
doubt.
He's like the children, their brains are rotten. You know what I mean? Like from video games, let them go outside. Like, I don't think he would have liked that.
Yeah.
Which would have fucking sucked for me, man, because I love the Beatles Rock Band video game. You know what I mean?
It's great. I've played it before. Like, yeah.
But if he said that, I'll be honest with you, I would have been sad, but I would have been like, hey, it's his shit.
I mean, it's his stuff. He can't say anything
part of
about
his shit.
I mean, he would obviously be wrong, but it's his stuff.
Yeah,
so
that is
whatever. Like, just because I love the Beatles and I idolize their music doesn't mean I give a shit about their opinions.
Yeah.
Or, you know what I mean? I mean, I think Paul's a wonderful person and George was a wonderful person. John was a complicated person and not necessarily the best most of the time. And Ringo seems like a fun dude.
Yeah.
But
Ringo. Well, interesting fact. I didn't know this, and you're the one who showed me. If any of you out there want to see something interesting about Ringo, go on YouTube and look up. What was it, Ringo?
I think I would just type in Ringo Starr Peace and Love Rant.
Yeah, Peace and Love Rant. Yeah.
I'm warning you with peace and love. It's like, how do you warn someone with peace and love?
I don't know, but it was a very effective way of not saying, fuck all of you.
Yeah.
But but I can see, that's got to be like their fans, any fans, that you're always going to have those rabid fans that are like out of control. You know what I mean? Like,
sure. Yeah.
But you're right. It's like we talk about all this, and there's Ringo who does seem like a very fun guy, just
he is.
And most of all I know of him is the peace and love. I'm not talking about that specific video, but everything. He's like, you know, like even his birthday that just passed, he's like, I want everyone, you know, like peace and love, like at 12 o'clock or whatever. And he said like, I want everyone to say that.
Oh,
you know
that's cool. That's
yeah.
cool.
And like, I actually set an alarm on my phone. I did. And on that time I said peace and love, you know what I mean?
Awesome.
I wanted like that to go out into the universe.
You want to be part of that moment.
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome.
You know,
absolutely.
That's why I don't know how much would change with Ringo, like if John or George
I don't
didn't
think it
die.
would.
Like,
Ringo always he walked to the beat of his own drum.
Yeah, and he was the one, you know, when the Beatles were kind of first like really getting their fame rolling when that was going on, they looked for him.
Yeah.
You know,
no,
so
Ringo's a great drummer. He's one of the best ever to do it.
And he was already in a successful band at that time.
Yeah. Like the dude has just massive amount of groove and rhythm and feel. Like he's really damn good. And like they joke that he's not the best drummer in the Beatles. Like he not only was obviously the best drummer in the Beatles, but he was one of the best in the world.
Yeah. There are songs that, you know, John and Paul have created, and they're, you know, songs that I could not even I did not even know, like, you know, I would not be able to begin to think, how are you going to put a drum beat down to that? You know what I mean? And I know in the early days, a lot of it was the same, but that was, you know, kind of the, like, what else are you going to do? You know, like the same one, we love you, you know, and it's going to be hi-hat, snare, you know, the same 1-2 beat.
Yeah.
But then later on, you know what I mean?
As they started developing their music.
Yeah, and he was still relevant in there. He knew how to, well, maybe I'm not going to play the drum set.
Yeah.
Maybe
he was a professional drummer. Like, he knew how to drum. I love his solo in the song, it's not, is it The End? I think it's The End.
Oh, yeah.
His solo, it's fucking great, man.
Yeah, dude,
it's one of my favorite Beatles songs ever.
I am not a drummer, but I do know how to play drums a little bit, and that is the first thing that I tried to do when I was learning was that
I'm
solo.
guessing it was too much for you to do.
The beginning, no, but later on, yes. I like the probably the middle part. Oh, no, I couldn't even, Like, when I was practicing a lot, I could probably do halfway from the beginning. I could get all the way, and then it like quickly breaks down. Yeah, you know what I mean. Yeah. But same thing goes with George too. One thing that I was actually really very surprised about was there was a lot of times where George, you know, it was actually Paul or John that would play a solo in one of the songs that nobody ever corrected them. They never said, "Oh, it wasn't George that played it," but like. You know, that goes back to also what I was saying, like what would have been different with George if John didn't die is because of the fact, and I don't even think I said this was, I don't think I finished this thought was, you know, George, you know, they had this little thing where George thought thought that John didn't like him, and John thought that George didn't like him. You know what I mean?
Well, they weren't even on talking terms by the end of it. Like none of them. Yeah, they all refused to talk to each other.
I know, and I think that would have gotten fixed after a while. I think time would have healed those.
Time would have healed those wounds for the most part. It also depends. Like Yoko and Paul hate each other to this day. Like, would John and Paul ever really been able to mend their?
She's definitely a unique one.
Yeah, would they ever been allowed to mend their relationship? If he's still married to Yoko and they hate each other, you know what I mean? Like, so who's to say? It's all
we could only hope. This is all speculation. Yeah, this is all just what you know.
That Beatles reunion concert, though, man.
Dude, I'm seriously goosebumps thinking about it.
Same here.
Dude, could you imagine?
And that is all we have for you tonight. We will continue to bring you up-to-date coverage as new imaginings develop. Please don't forget to leave an iTunes review, like, subscribe, and leave a comment. Remember, you can follow us on YouTube and on Twitter at DCYImagine. And if you would like to contact us or tell us what you are imagining, you can email us at dudecouldyoumagine@gmail.com. This has been Fritz Frivolous, and from all of us here at Dude Could You Imagine, keep on imagining.
That was you were right. I had a lot to say.
Yes, I knew though, and that was actually fun.
I had a good time.